Hello, everybody. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes and let folks hop in here for day 2 of Find Your Harmony 2023. For those of you who are joining on the replay or are joining live as I talk, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Lee Howell. I am family physician. I am a mom of 3 crazy teenage boys, and I am your anti-do-it-all life coach. So I will, before I start in with my segment for today, I'll just give everybody a few more minutes to jump in here if they're going to get in here live. Yeah. Hey, Leslie. Hey, Leslie, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you? Sorry, I'm walking.
That is okay.
And
I think
I,
Melody's jumping in. Hey, Melody. Welcome to day 2 of Find Your Harmony 5-day challenge. Hey, there you are. Hey, Melody, how are you? Oh, I think you're on mute. You can unmute yourself.
Yep,
There you
there I
go.
am. Yeah, I had a miss yesterday, unfortunately, so I'm a little behind. Sorry.
You know what, Melody? I'm going to share my story of yesterday in just a few minutes. And my day yesterday was a bit of a mess too. And if you know what, it's right in with what we're going to talk about today. So we bring all the mess, and that is okay.
Yeah, mine's a mess. I can assure you that.
We've got Leslie back with us today. And before you guys hopped on, I was just saying that I would give everybody just a couple more minutes. It's not quite 12 yet to hop in here and we'll get started with day 2. I am going to go ahead while we're waiting on folks, and I am going to um, put my contact information in the chat. Can you guys see that in the chat?
Yes.
I figured you can click on it or just copy and paste it real quick. It'll be easier than if I put it on a slide at the end. I would love to stay in touch. I'm on the usual platforms. The only thing I can't offer you is my website. I'm redoing it. It is under construction. So hopefully that will be back up and running and not too much longer. All right. So Melody, I heard you say that you were trying to play catch up from yesterday. Did you receive the
Yes.
replay?
I did, but I have not gotten a chance to watch it yet.
That is okay. So today is, it doesn't necessarily, you're not going to be lost. It doesn't necessarily, they go together, but not, hey, Andrea, but you will not be lost. Hey, Sabrina,
Morning.
how are you? Good to see you.
Amazingly well.
Well, that's awesome. Me too. I can say that. It's supposed to be beautiful week outside this week, and we can't complain about that, can we? Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 12:01, and I want to use every minute of our 30 minutes together. For those of you who I did not meet yesterday, I'm Lee Howell. I am a family physician here in Winston-Salem. I am a mom of 3 crazy teenage boys, and I am your anti-do-it-all life coach. So part of my story from yesterday, while I hopped on right there at the very end, I'll actually share with you guys shortly because it has to do 100% with what I am talking about today. So I am talking about redefining what success can look like in your life. Our culture programs us to define success by how much money is in our bank account, or the credentials that are behind our names, or how many followers we have on social media. But at the end of the day, do those measures really bring us joy? Now, I'm not saying that being driven is a bad thing, because it's not. It's what it drives us to learn new things and to be creative and innovative, and all of that helps us to grow. However, if we solely defined our success based on these vanity metrics, I'll call them, then success is almost impossible to achieve. We as humans are programmed to want more and more. We want to be successful at the next thing and the next thing. So that bar is always moving. So we don't really ever achieve success. We don't get to stop and enjoy what we have already achieved. So that is why I think it is so important for us to define or redefine what success can look like in your life, beyond what is tangible, beyond what the world sees. And when you do this, you'll find that you feel so much more fulfilled as a mom, in your career, in your other relationships. And you'll realize that success is not it's not the end game. Is actually a daily presence and a daily joy. And so when you get to define what success is on your own terms, based on your values and your purpose, you will feel so much more joyful and present and content in ways that you never considered was possible. So I alluded to my story from yesterday, and it ties in perfectly with redefining success. So Alice and Leslie and Vasheli and I had planned this Find Your Harmony 5-day challenge months ago. It was on the calendar. And my mom came to me and said, I finally got this appointment with this surgeon in Charlotte. Can you come with me? And I knew it was an appointment that we couldn't just easily reschedule, because this person is so hard to get an appointment with. So I said, sure, we're going to do it. I knew I had to be live yesterday at 12, but one of my best friends from college lives in Charlotte, and I set up, I was coming to her house. I was going to get on. Well, as we were sitting in the surgeon's office and we were waiting for an appointment that was supposed to be at 8:45, and here it was at 11, I was starting to panic yesterday. I really was. So I'm texting, Alice and Leslie and Vasheli, and they're like, don't worry about it. We got you. Like, this is fine. Go be safe, be with your mom. And I did. I took it for that, and I felt better. But I have to say, when I finally got over to my friend's house and got logged in, and there's 10 minutes left, there was a piece of me that I felt like I had let them down. I had felt like I'd let down you guys that had, decided to come and join us for the week. But I went home, got my parents back on the road, sat down with my twins, and we were playing some games. And I had this feeling like I'd forgotten something. So I scrolled in my phone, and sure enough, at that very moment, I was supposed to have them at a doctor's appointment. And so this started the complete spiral. I'm not good at my business. I've let down my audience. I've let down my coworkers. I've let down, my kids. I'm a terrible mom. So this whole spiral that, I'm sure all of you that are on either the replay or live can, it's like it's a Mad Lib, right? Like, you can just fill in your own blanks of the logistics, and you have the same story. But because I intentionally spend or have spent time working on redefining what success means to me, I was able to pause for like 30 seconds or maybe even for 2 seconds and stop that tailspin spiral. And and I was able to choose to redefine what success looked like for me in that moment. I chose the time and the love and the relationship with my mom and with my own kids. And that's I got to say, yes, that is successful to me. The heck with what I thought I should do or the way I should have shown up or all the ways that the world tells me I should be. And I was able to redefine what success meant to me in that moment. It didn't always happen that way, but I wanted to tell y'all the story because I knew that you could probably think right now back to a similar situation for yourself. And the way I want to spend the rest of our time together is talking about ways that not if, but when, because we know that this is going to happen again, right? This could happen to me today. It could happen to y'all tomorrow. We know days like this are going to happen. So what kind of tools can we tuck in our tool belt to help us pause and choose to redefine what success means to us in that moment? So I want to look at 3 ways or 3 tools that we can use to help you do that. And the first thing I want to look at is assessing your why. So we make hundreds of choices all day long. And it's kind of crazy to think about it, but about 75 to 80% of thoughts or beliefs or choices or behaviors that we do in a day are actually just on autopilot. And this is totally human nature. I mean, we all do this. However, most of these automatic thoughts and behaviors started for us years ago, quite often in our childhood. And some of these thoughts may no longer serve us where we are right now in adulthood. Yeah, at some point, they served us. They helped us to feel safe and secure and loved. But at this point, a lot of those automatic thought patterns no longer serve us. So recognizing and rewiring these kind of old, outdated thought patterns are absolutely necessary in our journey of redefining what success looks like in our lives. And one of the first steps of kind of rewiring these outdated thoughts is getting crystal clear on what your why is. So if you want to take just 30 seconds, I want this to be like completely off the top of your head and write down 3, 4, 5 of your top priorities. And when you can, see that list of your top priorities, buried in that is your why. So for me, my top priorities are maintaining love and connection with my husband and my kids, my extended family and friends, my own physical health, and my spiritual journey with God. So those are probably my top priorities. And buried underneath that is my why. And that is maintaining a life where, I maintain those connections of love with my spouse and my kids and my other relationships, where I care for my physical body and the spiritual gifts that God gave me, and where I continue to grow as a disciple. So take a few minutes either now or at the end of our session and take a look at those and see kind of what that kind of overarching theme is in your list of top priorities. And in that, I guarantee you'll find your why. Now, me knowing what my why is and me actually living day to day, making choices day to day that's in alignment with that doesn't always happen. So these next couple of tools in our tool belt are kind of ways that we can almost like check in and create an environment where we are living into our why. Because when we're not, that's kind of where these feelings of like just the undercurrent of maybe this isn't where I thought I would be. This is not what, like, is there something else for me? Like, what, I don't quite feel content where I am. So, a lot of times when we're either not crystal clear or we know what our why is, but we're making choices that aren't in alignment with that, is where some of those feelings that kind of rub up against that, they just kind of feel off. Um, so a way that we can work towards being more in alignment with our why and our core values is setting boundaries. Now, I say that, but I feel like that word gets tossed around a ton and quite often in a negative connotation. Um, but today I invite you to think about it. Think about boundaries as actually an act of love. So, the main purpose of boundaries is to create a framework with how we understand what to expect from one another. When I set boundaries at work or with my spouse, I'm letting those people know, and those are people I care deeply about, right? That they know how they can expect me to show up for them, and I communicate how I need them to show up for me. So when we do that for each other, we can only strengthen those relationships. And it also sets up a framework with how we can deal with conflict. Because we know that that's going to happen between any relationship, right? Whether it's at work or it's in a personal life. But what does it look like if we fail to set those boundaries? We feel overwhelmed because we overcommit ourselves. We say yes when we really mean no. And all of that kind of leads to anger and resentment. And I don't know about you, but that looks nothing like what I want success to look like in my life. And so this leads me to the last one, kind of that last tool that we can put in our tool belt as we are trying to redefine what success looks like in our life, is creating intentional connections. We're not meant to do this life alone. We're not meant to do it in a silo. I feel like this has been so highlighted throughout the pandemic, because we were kind of forced into these silos, right? We were working from home, our kids were home, homeschooling, all the bit, and we're kind of forced. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's been kind of a slow trudge to put yourself back out there, or at least for me, to put myself back out there and intentionally connect with either the people that are currently in my life or the people that have been part of my life for a really long time, but that because of these past 3 years and some of the things we were kind of forced into in terms of isolating ourselves, that some of those connections have kind of fizzled a little bit. So what do these connections have to do with me redefining success in my life? So they can be a mirror for how we are actually living into our own why and living into our personal strengths and our personal core values. I'm sure you each can think of a couple of folks in your life that would gladly hold up that mirror and say, like, hey, I know these top priorities are really important to you. this decision you're making in your career or in your personal life, is that in alignment with what you're trying to do? They can hold us accountable, right? They can be the mirror, so kind of help us reflect for ourselves, but they can also hold us accountable. If I'm sharing with my spouse or my best friend that I'm this actually truly is one of the things that I've tried to live into for 2023, is being more intentional with my relationships. I feel like I'm really good about that with my spouse and my kids, but I feel like between running a business and being in clinic and taking care of 3 teenagers with baseball and tennis and golf, that a lot of those those core relationships and friends, I haven't been as intentional at nurturing those. And the last thing it does, having these intentional connections does, is it helps us find clarity when we're not quite sure about our purpose or our core values or our core strengths. We're just feeling a little unsure of ourselves, that you can go to these folks in your community and ask them, what do you think my strengths are? What do you come to me for? I love that question. And a lot of my clients, when they're really struggling with, well, I don't know what my strengths are, or I don't know what my purpose is, I encourage them to go to not the person in your life that would, love you no matter what, and kind of have a hard time giving you the feedback, but to find the one or two that will give you that feedback and say, yeah, this is what I come to you for. This is what your strengths are, and really help you to live into those strengths. Because when when I start trying to feel my way and I'm not in my strengths, that's kind of where I start getting overcommitted. I'll start saying yes to everything, regardless of whether it's in alignment with my why or my priorities, or my strengths. And again, kind of get into that sense of being overwhelmed or resentful or angry. And I don't know why that's a default for me. It might be a default for a lot of y'all, but it is. I guess it's just human nature. But those folks that are the closest to you can really help refocus you into your looking at your strengths, and your why. And when you have clarity there, that is where you can kind of redefine what success looks like to you. You guys jump in. What has kind of resonated with y'all on some of these points, whether it's, just the importance of, why even bother redefining your success, or maybe even sharing what that may have looked like for you in the past. Any questions about assessing your why, setting boundaries, anything that we just talked about? What kind of resonated the most with y'all?
Well, for me, setting boundaries is an issue. I'm more of a servant kind of person, and so I never put myself first, and I always put everybody else first. So now when you're trying to set a boundary, they don't want to do that because you've always done.
Yes.
Which is what happens to me every day when Alice is expecting me to tell her when I exercise by 9, and it never happens, It's always something. I know she thinks I'm lying half the time, but I swear I have, between my husband and my son who lives here, it's just something all the time. All the time. It's just like, they know I have something to do. So it's, and so I think, well, okay, I'll do that. And then I'll go do, yeah. And it's just, it's just hard. And because, like I said, they see it as a negative thing, if you're not serving them. So it is a hard thing. Boundaries are hard.
They are. They absolutely
are. And then sometimes, I know people that's just got tons of boundaries, and I'm thinking, Well, they're just terrible. But maybe they're not. Maybe it's just because I don't have any and I'm just mad because they do. I don't know.
There's different ways you could set those boundaries, Melody. Like for me, I have two that I do religiously. That I'm going to work out, and there's no question about that. And I'm going to do it on Monday, and I'm going to do it on Friday, and I might do it one day in between. And you got to come at it from the point of view that you got to use your mama voice, because when you use that mama voice, their little back straightened up, but they know what you're talking about. That's
They're going to listen.
Boundaries. They do listen. Even your husband will listen because he had a mama too.
Well, yes.
So that might be one way to kind of help you get started.
Yeah.
Setting those boundaries, because once they're set, if you don't deviate from them, then they go, oh well, okay, she's going to go work out today. Okay, we're good.
Right. And that's the thing, getting in a routine and don't change it. That is my biggest problem, because every day something changes and I let it change it. You know what I mean? And that's on me.
And that makes you feel resentful, probably.
Oh yeah. But I do it anyways.
So, I invite you to think about this, because, I can't remember what word you just used. Like, maybe, I don't know if you use the word should, but where that self-talk comes in of, I should do this, or I need to do this, is, reframing it, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well, to give them that reason of why, almost inviting them into I need your help with this. This is my part of my why, whether it's, exercise or eating more healthily, I need your help with this. So I am setting the intention of exercising on this day and this day at this time, and can you help me? And so kind of inviting them, you're almost inviting them into that boundary, and without feeling like it's being enforced. Because of course the people that we love the most want to help us the most, but they're also the ones that can hurt us the most, right? Because that love and vulnerability is there. But we're going to just assume that, your son and your husband, had that good intention for you. And so letting them know that kind of goes back to not being in the silo. If I say I am losing 20 pounds. Well, if I told Alice that I'm losing 20 pounds, she's going to text me and say, how's it going? Right? But if I keep that to myself, yes, she is. If I keep that to myself, I don't have the accountability, but I also don't have that loving support either. And so inviting somebody that you need their support in order to, set yourself up for that inevitable success, letting them in on that, versus not telling them and then being mad when they're not supportive.
That's good.
What else? That was awesome.
Lee, I like the way that you talked about defining your purpose, because I think that that's hard to get to for some people. So tying it back to your priorities, I think is a good suggestion.
I always found that was a very tangible way to talk about it with, either for myself or with clients, is, I feel like finding your purpose is, kind of another one of those buzzwords. And you're like, well, how do I find it? Is it lost? And I really do think that, that the answers are in here, right? I mean, you were born with a given purpose. Your purpose didn't go anywhere. And most of the time, that purpose, when lived out well, is when you are clear on what brings you joy and passion, what you enjoy doing, what you're good at. Most of the time, I mean, your purpose is not going to lie in things that you're just not good at. And so, using that kind of tangible idea of your priorities, what you enjoy, what brings you joy to do,
Mhm.
yeah, your purpose can really shine through that. But it's not something that is out there somewhere that we've lost and have to go find.
Yeah, does sound like a daunting task.
It does, right?
I
I
went
can't
to the
remember where I
class
read
where
this. I can't
I
even
did a
remember where.
class where I
Oh,
articulated my purpose, but it's more of a worky kind of career purpose. So I'm not sure that I've done it beyond that. So I'll take your tips.
well, when we recognize that we can use it for more than me being clear on my purpose, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but it really is more of a foundation of, what else can it help me with in my life, whether it's
Mhm.
setting
Sure.
boundaries or whether it's making choices on a daily basis that are in alignment with what I say my priorities are.
Mhm.
Kind of another fun activity that you can do when we hang out today is, after you write down your five, your five, 3, 4, 5 top priorities, is to then go into your calendar, planner, whatever you use, and look out like the next 2, 3, 4 weeks and see, are my priorities in those activities that I have on my calendar?
Mhm.
Because I mean, I will be absolutely, transparent here. I'm sure that there are more than plenty that are on mine that I wish I had looked at and said, heck no. um, and recognizing that in myself, I'm a giver too. Um, Melody, you want to help people. I mean, that is,
That brings you
but we can
joy.
still do that in a way that is in alignment with our own our own why and our own purpose, and you know this in alignment with our those core values and our strengths.
And I think people, if you're not, if you don't have them in alignment yourself, people seem to sneak in on your time,
Mhm.
and you just say
Absolutely.
yes before you know it, and you've got a mess of a day.
I had a minister that he was a minister in the church, but he was also a therapist, a counselor, and I love this. He's like, if your first answer isn't heck yes, it needs to be heck no. And that has stuck with me for a long time. I love that.
That's
That's good
good.
advice.
It
Yeah.
really is. So when you think about those boundaries, you're right, Melody. I mean, at first people may start pushing back on you a little bit, whether it's our immediate family who's used to us being a certain way, or whether it's, our coworkers are used to us for showing up a certain way. When you start kind of setting some of those boundaries, or yeah, there's gonna be some pushback. But again, kind of inviting them into, hey, this is why I'm doing this. I was feeling, whether it was overwhelmed or resentful or angry, about this, that, or the other in my life. And I recognize that, if I'm truly saying that these are my top priorities, I'm working super hard to try to make my choices in alignment with those. So inviting them into your kind of reasoning behind doing this, not just that you're being a meanie and saying, like, no, I'm not helping you on that project. Um, but let me help you understand why I'm making some of these changes for myself. All right. Any other questions or in thoughts for the day? Thank y'all so much for being here. I think tomorrow, day 3, we have Vasheli Shaw. She's going to talk to us more about finding our harmony in terms of our finances. I don't know. Ooh, we got like boundaries and finances back to back. Like that's some heavy stuff. Leslie, you and Alex are going to have to bring some lighter topics to the table on Thursday and Friday. Um, All right. I would love to get in touch with you guys. So in the chat, I don't know if you guys were still on here. My website is in transit, like it is changing. But I put in here my direct email address and where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I try to post videos each week with similar content to what we're talking about today. So I'd love to see you over there. So anyway, I do appreciate everybody's time today, and we will see you back in here tomorrow.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Have a great rest of your
Bye-bye.
day.
You as well.
Thanks.